as Patty is generously.
Sure. Okay. So what do you want to say to our Tumblr about what we were talking about? Like some words to the audience who didn't get to participate about AIDS and HIV?
I would like to say that I was excited to go both for the sense of thinking about SCMS as a place where we've had very good conversations about media's connection to activism into our communities. And some of them I remember sitting in the panel with you crying, both of us, when you were doing a piece about video games. But right now I'm really interested in the challenges of teaching the recent crop of media that's come in, the challenges and rewards really of teaching AIDS media to younger generation of pretty activist students. So my students are very, queer, trans, conscious, and they're just hungry for these images and these models for change. Like when they saw, Greg Bordowitz's oral history saying, we really thought we were going to be quarantined. They were, this was a piece of history and a kind of affective relationship to something that they really have done a lot with. So I guess I was there as a pedagogue and a colleague, and just also thinking about my generation and the people that we did a lot of work with, and that people who converted later, and it's just kind of living with people who are in the undetectable set, but like how that kind of goes with aging and goes kind of dailiness and how much energy they or we have to kind of think about lives that are connected to activism, or just like lives that just have to keep going on, and I just juggle all that. So those were some of the thoughts that went through my head, and an amazing thing.
I just heard that you're doing this.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi. Conversation. Stay right here. This is it? Stay right here. This is it.
This is the.
Do you guys want to respond to Patty? We have two more beloved members in here.
Sorry, can you please edit me?
What did you say, Patty?
Oh, plus I want to say one other thing. We have a joke now in my classes where we have to fill in the blank. Everything I know about X, I learned from Tumblr. So.
Either of you want to respond to Patty, and then we'll ask a question to our
I'll
guests.
Julia,
join Julia.
Join our conversation. It's like I really got wide angle lens.
Oh.
back up to the camera. I just got cold.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Are you going to be around? I just got real cold, so I want to put. Okay, I'll look for you.
Yes.
That's so mean.
Okay, so these guys want to respond. Do you want to respond to Patty?
About Tumblr?
Okay.
Oh, I just made the point that I kept, when you were a little bit tired. So your students were interested in, identifying with and empathizing with a kind of mode of suffering that stood for a larger kind of social problem, right? Do you think that kind of engagement is again which grounds HIV AIDS in the past, and are there kind of more? Do you also teach, are there other institutions that more currently situated for students in the academic?
Right. What I really noticed was not that they thought of it as the past. They said this is useful activist media history for all the things that we're engaged with, and they're, I think, connected with sort of social services, health issues, cross-disciplinary things about justice and poverty and embodiment and epidemiology, and so I felt that it was very much about like this is a past that we don't have continuity for, and hungry to get that, access that, because their lives felt touched by those things in ways that I think were very present.
How are they accessing?
Well, I was talking about teaching AIDS media
Gotcha.
now.
Yeah.
Kind of having not really done that for a little bit, and just it was before the full docs were out, like
The new round.
but they were works in progress, and we were dealing with all kind of transnational queer stuff, and they were very like, we really want to put these things together. They thought of it as they do in all my classes, maybe connected to their DIY media in general, and their activism, how they access communities of people who are looking for archives. Yeah, so I felt it wasn't at all energized.
Because they're hungry for the tools and the
sort of momentum that they see in that.
Yeah, and you were picking up that I said the word affect, that they were also saying that there were affects of maybe suffering or anger, that there was a whole range of them. It wasn't just like an elegiac, like I wish I'd been there, which I felt like maybe 10 years ago we had much more in the classroom. Like,
Relatedness.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, that was when people, that's when queers were active.
Yes.
We wanted to be those queers.
Right.
But I don't think people have that feeling so much.
But I think now, I mean, first of all, there's Occupy, so that made a big difference. So I think there's a hunger for other models of organizing that are maybe what used to be considered non-traditional organizing, but now it's just organizing, since the traditional modes have kind of gone.
Right, so I showed them Born in Flames, and they were loving it. I was like, of course we do everything like that.
That's bad. But also, there's a lot of interest in it now because of Dream Act. And the Dreamers, a lot of Dreamers are queer. And so there's some interesting new crossovers now around that, around questions of legality, illegality, mainstream, opposition, invisible. Status, very much status.
Those connections are largely invisible. I did 2 teachings at Iowa City and Cedar Rapids about the connection between AIDS activism. Not that I was a part of this, but this is based on models that were developed in the 80s and 90s by AIDS activists. They had no idea. I think it's present in the conversation. It's what we continue to be acknowledged, more visible.
So we're going to finish this, but we're putting these on Tumblr, and we've been talking now for almost 2 hours about the pastness.
You still have your voice.
Presence of AIDS, and I was
You
teaching
heard
for a
at what
while.
volume it had to
Yeah,
start
I
out.
was yelling because it was in a weird space. But do you guys want to, I mean, you're both so important to this conversation. Do you want to say anything about, particularly the presentness of AIDS? That's something that we were really trying to struggle with, like, especially because the documentaries that are out now are so past specific. But also, we were chosen for SCMS, and that's why we had the Rogue panel. That other question's been interesting for me. Like, who are we here, and what is the importance of our voice, and who knows our voice, and who are we speaking to? So any of that, we'd love to hear.
Well, one very tiny thing is that I went to the Queer Caucus meeting yesterday, and it turns out that the Queer Caucus gets to constitute a certain number of panels for the conference, but if queer panels aren't submitted to the caucus, they don't get them. They're not routed to them. So I don't know if you went through the Queer Caucus or not.
We had this conversation,
Okay,
and
fine.
it seems an important one.
Yeah, but I think there's some structural issues here that aren't even particular to your session, but are particular to queer panels in general.
And they have to be accepted though first before they can be routed.
No, that's not true.
That's what they said.
That's not true.
Well, we should get clarity. Yeah, we need
I was told, well, this is,
get organization.
but I
Doesn't have to be on our record.
this, the opposite was said by the leaders of the Queer Caucus yesterday.
Ways to generate conversations here at this conference that are in this panel. So I'm really grateful to you for making this conversation happen. And I feel like I want to learn Chinese to talk about AIDS in the 21st century. That there are a lot of conversations that aren't happening because we're not even speaking across social spaces and linguistic particularity. And so maybe that's what we kind of confront, is that fragmentation and the inability to make some total space, but making some spaces seems more efficient.